Welcome to the Spohn Trained Personal Development Podcast. Here's your host, Nicholas Spohn.
Get ready to understand what finally drives human emotions. It's a whole new paradigm on emotional health. And this will work to get control of your emotions with no drugs, even if nothing has worked before. It's a simple way to integrate psychology and spirituality. In fact, the two can't be separated. The ancient Greek word psyche, that's where it came from, is the Greek meant spirit or soul. And today we often associate it with the brain. And they're two very different meanings. So we're going to integrate how our psyche, how our spirit affects our emotional health today. Now, over 40 million Americans are taking psychiatric drugs, and countless others are self-prescribed with, alcohol and marijuana and all kinds of other things. So our understanding of emotional health is completely wrong. We missed the boat. People just don't understand what it takes to be emotionally healthy. They don't know what emotions are, where they come from. And today we're going to change all of that. This podcast is the foundation of everything I teach on emotional health and influence. And I'm super excited because this is my first solo episode today. I've been interviewing world-renowned experts in their fields. And I finally realized that I have some of my own message to share. And some people have gotten this content today on my theory of emotions. They've gotten it at some of my talks around North America over the last year, but I haven't spread it to a huge audience. So today is the day you guys are finally going to get the model that I use that affects everything that we do, a model that no one else is teaching as far as I can tell. I'm super excited for this new format. Every week, we're going to do one solo episode and one expert interview. So you guys are going to get to hear from me every week. And all of these episodes are going to build off each other. So if you're coming back to this episode from one in the future, welcome. And this is going to be the foundation for everything that we do going forward. Now, if you haven't yet, join the Spohn Trained Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/Spohn Trained, where we take these ideas, we apply them to our lives. We share insights on patterns that we need to overcome. We get help from other coaches, entrepreneurs, hypnotists, and other experts. And it's a great way to build your community. Remember, you become like the people you spend time with. So check out the Spohn Trained Facebook group, and don't be shy. Definitely introduce yourself. Today, I just put a video up on what causes indecisiveness. It starts when we're young. So check that video out, learn why you might be indecisive and how to overcome it. All right, so today's episode, we're going to cover the famous antenna theory of emotions. I should say the soon-to-be famous antenna theory of emotions. We're going to cover how it works and how we can use it to get control of our emotions once and for all. And I'm going to give you some simple hacks to apply to manage your emotions. Now, usually the stuff I would go over in a 3-day seminar, we'd practice it, we'd get it ingrained deep into our nervous systems and our endocrine systems. Today, we don't really have that opportunity, so I'm going to give you a high-level look at how these work. And you have to apply them for them to work, for you to really understand them. So if you can, take these principles and go out and use them as soon as possible. In fact, I use these exact strategies I'm going to talk about today to run a marathon on 2 weeks' notice with no training. So you guys can check that video out on my YouTube channel, how I ran a marathon using these strategies with absolutely no training. Actually, that's not true. I think I did 3 or 4 training runs, but that hardly counts for running a marathon. So the overview of the antenna theory of emotion. So if you know how a radio works, a radio has an antenna. And let's say the antenna is tuned into the classical music station. Well, the antenna has to resonate with that classical station. So it only picks up the station that it's resonating with. Now, if you take the dial on the radio and you tune it to the next station, to maybe the country station, the antenna changes its resonance and it only picks up the country station because that's frequency that it resonates with. Now, what happened to that classical music? Well, those classical waves are still all around that antenna. They're still everywhere. They didn't go anywhere. The antenna just doesn't resonate with them anymore. That's exactly how our emotions work. You see, our brain and our body is an antenna for thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And I don't mean an antenna as a metaphor. I mean, in actuality, we're actually an antenna for thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And just like that radio, we see the entire world based on what we're resonating with. There's things to be grateful for everywhere. There's things to be worried and depressed about all around us. But the way that we tune into that, the way we use our antenna will affect what we see. I'm sure you guys have been in this state of gratitude where everything you see is just this divine gift and working out perfectly, and you feel so grateful for it. And then I'm sure you've been in those states of worry and fear where everything in your life is something to be worried about or fearful for, because that's what you resonate with. Now, this, if you study NLP, this is what affects our perceptual filters, our state, our emotional state, our vibrational state. Those are all the same thing. They affect the filters that we put on the world. So if you change the station, you're going to see something totally different. Think about two people going to a party. One of them doesn't want to be there and one of them is excited to be there. Well, they're going to have totally different experiences at that party because they're going to resonate differently with it. And in fact, they're going to attract different experiences. Everything in our world is energy. Events are energy. People are energy. Ideas are energy. And so what we're putting out into the world is also what we're attracting, because like energy attracts like energy. So just like that antenna that's resonating with the country station, if you're tuned into gratitude, you're going to see gratitude everywhere. You're going to attract more things to be grateful for. So today we're going to talk about how to tune your antenna. And I hope this sounds exciting for you guys, because it is. And it's not that complicated. It's actually fairly simple. We just never learn it. So today is the day that we're going to start learning it. Now, a few caveats before we get into it. One of them is that we also have our favorite radio station. So think about when you get into your vehicle and you press the button and it takes you to the classic rock station. You press the next button, it takes you to this station. So we have those emotionally, and they're called anchors. And we're going to get into that in, I think, the next episode, where we talk about how we reset those anchors. But basically, those anchors are any stimulus in our environment puts us into a certain frequency. So you see your boss and you get anxious, right? And so that boss is an anchor to tune you into, a favorite, quote unquote, favorite station, just like when you get in your vehicle and you push the button for your favorite station. And so we're going to learn how to scramble those stations to change, give you brand new stations. That's going to be on a future episode. But one thing I want you to know is that your capabilities are dependent on your state. And we're going to use the word state, which means your emotional state, your vibrational state, your frequency, right? We use all of these terms when we're talking about people because we know that's how it works, right? Oh, that person had a good vibe. Oh, I resonate with that. I'm on the same wavelength. We have the same frequency, right? We talk about people in that way, and we talk about ideas in that way. Oh, I didn't resonate with that, because just like our antenna, it's all about frequency and vibration. So I hope you guys see that. And deep in our subconscious, that's how we recognize it, because we use those language. Remember, language is generated in the subconscious, and our subconscious knows that those energetic terms of frequency and vibration and resonance are how we connect with people, right? Think about the people in your life are in your life because you resonate with them on some level. Okay, so here's how it works. So now maybe I've convinced you that, maybe I haven't. I'm going to teach you about this a little more in depth and hopefully convince you that this is how our emotions work and how we change them. So we have our five senses. Our five senses is how we perceive the world. And we basically get a stimulus, and our subconscious mind analyzes everything that our five senses bring in. And it runs those stimulus through its file. So it goes through the history of what you've been through, what you've experienced, and it even has some genetic inherited files, right? If you see a bear, you're going to be afraid. That's probably nothing you've learned in this lifetime. It's probably inherited. So things like that. So your subconscious mind takes in all of the stimulus in your environment, or the perceived stimulus in your future potentially, and it runs it through the files, and it says, okay, this file looks like that situation. Here's how we respond. And it makes a meaning out of it. So that meaning is very important. That's going to come up over and over. Your subconscious mind generates a meaning based on what's going on in your environment. It then takes that meaning and gives it to your endocrine system. And this is the key. I think this is where a lot of philosophies and theories fall short, is they miss the power of the endocrine system. So nervous system gets a stimulus, runs through your file and say, here, this is how we should respond. And then it then sends that file to your endocrine system. Your endocrine system drops hormones and releases hormones into your system, right? in Reiki or in pranic healing, it drops them into your different energy centers. There's glands in your whole body. It releases hormones into those areas. Those hormones then change your cellular vibration because those hormones are just energy. And so they change the vibrations of your cells. Now, remember how an antenna works. It's just vibration. So if you change the vibration of the cells, you're changing the station that you're tuned into. So if you want to be filled with more gratitude, or if you want to be filled with more fear, there's two very different signals that go out from the nervous system to the endocrine system. I hope that makes sense. So I'm going to go over that one more time. So your five senses take in a stimulus. It then sends that stimulus through the files, makes a meaning of it, and said, here's how we should respond. Gives that response to the endocrine system, which releases hormones, changes the vibration of your cells, and then those hormones compel you to action. Remember, we make decisions emotionally and we justify them with logic. Well, those hormones are the emotions. Those are what push us to change. They give us urges to eat or not to eat, or to make that sales call or not to make that sales call. Those are the hormones that do it. And fear is always what's stopping us. So most of us live in a subtle state of fear because we don't know how to change our emotions, and our nervous system is sending a message to our endocrine system. Hey, be scared of this. Worry about this. This is something that we should worry about. And we don't know how to change it. So we're constantly releasing stress hormones into our system. Then we perceive the world as stressful and we attract more stress into our lives. So now it's time to take control of all the signals that are being sent through our system. Now, remember, you are in control. Nobody makes you feel anything. A lot of this is going on below conscious awareness, which makes it feel like we're not in control. But I'm going to give you some ways to change that, to take control back. One of them is the meaning that you make. And we're going to go over that in a little more detail in a little bit. So remember, everything around us is energy. So technically everything affects our state, or I'm going to call it our vibrational state or our emotional state. So everything around us affects our vibrational state. From the weather to the people you're around, to the music you're listening to, everything affects it. So I couldn't include everything in my list. So I'm going to give a few keys for you to tap into, and they're going to give you proof that this antenna theory is how our emotions really work. So now, how do we change the channel and tap into totally different and empowering emotions, right? We want to be on channels of love and gratitude, confidence, power, passion. We want to live on those channels, and we want to get rid of those fear channels when necessary. Remember, fear protects us. So we don't always want to just eliminate fear, but we want to be able to step into our love-based emotions on a daily basis. And here's the way to do it. I hope you guys are ready for a whole new paradigm on changing your emotions. Now, the first 4 keys, so I have 9 here. The first 4 keys are all body language. Our subconscious mind, our body and our minds are parts of the same system. Now, they're not the same, but they're parts of the same system. They have this dynamic feedback loop that one sends a signal to the other. So your mind will affect your body, but your body will also affect your mind. So the easiest way to change your vibrational state is to change your body. So we're going to go over a couple ways right now. The first one, taught through every tradition, is your breath. Breath is life. So in one of my interviews with the human biologist, Gary Brecka, I interviewed him and we talked about the level of energy in your body is the level of oxygen in your blood. They're directly related. So scarce breath equals a scarcity mindset. So this is how it works. When we go into fight or flight, right before fight or flight, there's this thing called freeze. So if you ever walk up on a rabbit, it doesn't just run away right away. It'll stand there and it'll look at you and wait to see if you're a threat. And it freezes. And because most hunters operate by motion detection, right? When we're the same way, if something moves in our peripheral, we'll catch up on it. We'll pick up on it. So because of that, the rabbits don't just automatically jump. They're assessing the situation. They're freezing. And when they freeze, they limit their breathing. They don't want to see their, the rib cage go in and out really big. They don't want to make a bunch of noise breathing. So we do the same thing. If you guys remember playing, hide and go seek or tag, not tag, hide and go seek, when you're hiding and someone walks by, you cut your breathing off. And that scarce breath sends a signal to your entire system that says we're threatened. So if you're going through your day not breathing deeply, you're basically sending a signal through your entire system that says we're under attack. Like we're under threat. We don't know if we should fight or flight. And most of us live in that state. Remember, a scarce breath is a scarce mindset. It's fear-based. So just taking deep breaths, deep belly breaths, and abundant breathing can put you into an abundant mindset. So that's how your breath can affect you. The next thing, when you're getting ready for competition, or a fight, or a wrestling match, or whatever it might be. For me, it was wrestling or mixed martial arts. My breathing would change, and I would flare my nostrils and breathe strongly through my nose. And that deep breath triggers that aggression. So that's very useful when I was going out to fight in the cage, right? That deep breath, flaring my nostrils to get more oxygen into my system. Versus when I'm meditating, it's a very relaxed breath. And those different types of breath, again, send a signal to your endocrine system, which releases different hormones. When I breathe powerfully like I'm getting ready to fight, it releases all of these different hormones that make me feel powerful and confident and ready to go. When I stop breathing, again, it says fear. It says fight or flight, assess the situation, become nervous. So anytime you're nervous, just force yourself to take deep belly breaths, and you won't be nervous anymore. You can't be nervous anymore. Same thing with people that hyperventilate or they have panic attacks. You can't have a panic attack and breathe deeply at the same time. So if you force yourself to breathe deeply, that panic attack has to go away. All right, so that's the first variable, is your breath. The second one is your facial expressions. So there's been studies where they've taken groups of depressed people, clinically depressed patients, and they make them smile 20 minutes, 3 times a day. And the symptoms of depression faded. Because when you smile, you release endorphins, you release all these different hormones into your system. It's ingrained in us, right? Blind people smile. They've never seen anybody smile. They just know because it comes from the subconscious, and that subconscious releases endorphins. So instead of waiting to be happy to smile, why don't we just smile and we're happy? And again, just smiling changes the signal of your antenna. And I do this demonstration where I have people go from a regular, happy, genuine smile into a sly little crooked smile where just one side of the mouth goes up. And it's just like, it's this little flirtatious, kind of cocky smile, and just shifting from a regular smile to the sly smile on one side shifts your emotions completely. Try it right now. Just put a big smile on your face and then shift it to a sly smile on one side of the face and notice the emotions. If you hold that for a few seconds, you'll start to become like this playful, flirtatious. It really changes your emotions. So those little micro expressions in our face not only expose and tell people what our emotions are, but by changing them, we can lead our emotions. Remember, it's that psychodynamic loop between our body language and our mind. So if we breathe deep and we put a big smile on our face, if you just do those 2 things, listening to this podcast was worth it. Those 2 things alone will definitely change your life. So facial expressions are huge. I walk around, I force myself to smile, especially when I'm speaking. It changes how people relate to me. It changes the energetic state that I'm in instantly. Nothing is faster. The next one is our posture. Now think about people that are depressed. What's their posture like? Think about people that are confident. What's their posture like? They're totally different, right? Depressed people go small, their shoulders roll forward, their head goes down. That's a sign of depression. Confidence, in the animal kingdom, confidence is size, right? Big body, big size, shoulders back, chest out, arms wide, big smile on our faces. And by shifting your posture, you will shift your energetic state. So Amy Cuddy did a TED Talk on power poses, where when you stand in the Wonder Woman pose, you put your hands on your hips, all of the chemicals that make you feel powerful, that enable you to take risks, that make you feel confident, are released into the system. So just by standing confidently, you will start to feel more confident. You will send a signal to your nervous system, right? Your nervous system says, all right, posture like this. Oh, it must mean that we're confident. Well, let's send a signal to our endocrine system and tell our endocrine system to make us feel confident. And so if you're not confident, but you shift into that, you're breathing deep, you're smiling, you're standing tall, those signals go to your endocrine system. All of them are congruent. And your endocrine system says, oh, we must be in a good place here. Let's release some good feeling hormones. That's how it works. So every time I'm getting ready to talk, I just prep my shoulders back, big chest, big body language, big smile on my face, deep breaths, and boom, I'm in state. So those are the first 3. The next one is our movement. And so I want you to think about like the speed and the type of movement that we have. So when we're think about yoga, it's slow and flowing and open body language. And that flow allows like a relaxed energy, right? We're pairing that with our breathing and our posture, but the flow of that movement brings you to ease. And then another thing, if we think about, my favorite example is think about Italians, the way that they talk. They always talk with their hands. They're moving their hands quickly and passionately. And we think about Italians as a very passionate culture. But if we strap their arms down to their side so they couldn't talk with their hands, they would not be passionate anymore. They would lose that. And likewise, for you, if you start moving your hands and your body in a passionate way, you will start to feel more passionate. So just, some of you are watching this on YouTube. You might be seeing the video. Some of you are just listening. But if I start to move my hands quickly, I begin to talk faster. I get more passionate. I get more animated. I get more excited. And that's how I live in a passionate state all the time, is because I take a note of these body language hacks, and then I just move passionately. I move decisively, right? Moving your body quickly is a way that shows decisiveness. Think about leaders, how they move their hands decisively, powerfully, right? And you can navigate between different states. Sometimes you might want to be in this like flowing state, which has more feminine characteristics of dancing and flowing. And sometimes it's more masculine, hard driving. But using those different ways of moving your body will tap you into totally different emotions. And you can apply them in different situations. So when I'm fighting, the way I move my body is different than when I'm, on a date, right? And the way that I move my body in those two situations affects my nervous system, it affects my endocrine system, it affects how I feel. And that's what we're all about, guys, is how we feel, because what we feel is what we attract into our life. So I always say that about at least 50% of our vibrational and emotional state comes from our body language. If we master those 4 steps, we cannot feel depressed. If you breathe deep, if your facial expressions are relaxed and smiling, if your posture is upright, if you're moving quickly and passionately, you literally cannot feel depression or anxiety. It's not congruent with that body language. You're sending a signal to the files of your nervous system, and your nervous system says, well, we can't feel anxiety and depression and move our body this way. It's totally inconsistent. So that's why I say body language is so important. Tony Robbins, I'm a big Tony Robbins follower. He says physiology first. So if you want to change your state, get your body involved, right? And remember these 4 things: your breath, your facial expressions, your postures, and your movement, the way you move your body. So those 4 things give us total control of our emotions in and of themselves. And we're going to go a little bit deeper still, though.
Do you want to build rapport, maximize how the human brain is wired, shift emotional states, and help people change their lives? This free course, 30 Days of Influential Language Hacks, is the tool to help you accomplish it. A daily video course delivered right to your inbox, helping you negotiate, make friends, close sales, have certainty in your decisions, and many more. Visit spohntrained.com/language to sign up for your free subscription of 30 Days of Influential Language Hacks. That's spohntrained.com/language.
Okay, so the next one is our food, diet, and lifestyle. And there's so many different theories on this, and there's so many different rabbit holes. That's not what I'm specializing in right now. But what we eat affects our vibrational state. So think about a time when you had a Thanksgiving meal. What were your emotions like afterwards? What was your energy like afterwards? You just wanted to sleep, right? And when you're eating sugary foods, sugar is acid. So when you're eating processed foods, lots of grains, lots of sugar, that creates acid in your system. Well, guess what else is acid? Stress hormones are acid. And remember, like energy attracts like energy. So when you're stressed out, this is why we crave alcohol, sugar, tobacco, processed foods, all that junk food. We crave it when we're stressed out because that stressed energy in our body is acidic, and it craves like energy because we're not resonating with a healthy diet. We're not resonating with having a green smoothie when we're stressed out. So this is why it's so important. If you're wanting to lose weight, you have to first manage your emotional state, because from a stressed out state, you're always going to give in to those bad food choices. So you have to manage your state. So food is a huge one. I do intermittent fasting. Right now, I think my favorite type of diet is Whole30. Lots of vegetables, hardly any processed foods, lots of healthy fats. Those all affect your emotional state in a huge way. The next one is hydration, right? We're energy, and energy flows through water. And so if you're not properly hydrated, the energy in your system doesn't work. You're not getting rid of the old cells in your body aren't washed out. Your lymph system isn't working properly. You're not sending proper electronic signals through your nervous system. So staying hydrated is definitely key for emotional health as well. And then the next one is your sleep. If you don't sleep regularly, you're not going to be emotionally healthy. So we had a family friend who we think had sleep apnea, and wasn't applying the diet and lifestyle things, thought he had early onset dementia, and he ended up taking his own life. It's an incredibly sad story because he didn't know how these variables affect our emotions. All right. So food, hydration, and your sleep. Now, alcohol and drugs can release some good feeling hormones in the short term, but always in the long term, they leave a residue. They leave an effect on your emotions. So I am almost 11 months, totally sober, no alcohol, no drugs. Not that I did them anyway, but I used to drink a little bit. And I noticed last year I would have some drinks, and the next day, like, I would have all these doubts and worries and anxieties. And I'd be like, this isn't me. What is this? And I realized it was the alcohol leaving like an emotional residue in my system, right? Because alcohol is chemistry. Our emotions are chemistry in our body and their energy. And so that alcohol wasn't mine. It was putting me into a place of doubt and worry and anxiety. And most people go home at night, they have a glass of wine, they try to get rid of the stress of the day. And the next morning they wake up back in the stress of the day because they don't realize that alcohol contributes to the stress in their system. So diet is a huge one for me. Cleaning that up has brought me so much more emotional health. If you guys are thinking about going on that lifestyle and just going clean, you're kind of going against the grain of society. It's hard not to be a drinker. I live in Iowa, and it's everyone's drinking Busch Lights on the weekends except for me, and I'm having a green smoothie. But I wouldn't change it for the world because my emotional health is so much more important than drinking and trying to fit in. All right, so there's the first 5. The next one is the visual. So in neuro-linguistic programming, we think of stimulus coming into 3 systems: the visual, auditory, and the kinesthetic. So if the body was the kinesthetic, how we use our body is kinesthetic feelings. Visual is the next one. So what we see, the external pictures around us, and then the pictures we make in our head also affect the emotions we create. So if you saw something threatening, right, that would create certain emotions in your head. Now, the way that you see them also affects your state. This is what we call the submodality. So if the visual is the modality, the submodalities in NLP are the characteristics of that vision. So if I have you close your eyes, as long as you're not driving, and think about a snake, and then think about that snake off in the distance, what's your emotion like then? And then move that snake up right into your face like it's about to bite you. And picture that. And what's the emotion then? It's 2 totally different emotions. Does that make sense? So the way that we create the visual images in our mind affects our emotions. And in a moment, I'm going to talk about how we do that unconsciously and how that affects us. But I want you to start to recognize, hey, I'm in a stressed out state. What are the pictures that I'm creating? You might not even be aware of them, but ask yourself, am I creating pictures? I'm worried about, this relationship or this deal, and I'm probably creating some kind of pictures in my head that's negatively affecting my state. So we can get control of that. Now, I'm a big believer in visualization, right? So when you visually rehearse something, you start to put the emotions into place. So when I would visualize myself about to have a mixed martial arts competition or have a fight, I would visualize myself as being 10 feet tall. And I would feel like it. I would see myself winning over and over. And those emotions, those hormones would get released into my system. And pretty soon I would go out and I would perform exactly the way I visualized. We're not only rehearsing, by visualizing, we're not only rehearsing mentally, we're also rehearsing emotionally. So I'm rehearsing the emotions because the emotions are what's going to put me into that vibrational state to perform at my best. Anytime I work with athletes, visual rehearsal is key. Every time I give a talk, I visualize myself giving that talk. I picture it. What's the audience like? What's the look on their faces? How do they respond? And I'm putting that into my body as an emotion. and it's storing there, and then that becomes my identity. Most people don't have control over the pictures they're creating in their mind. They're creating pictures of failure, of stress, of worry, of times they've screwed up in the past. They're running that like a movie, and they're trying to figure out why they don't have emotional control, why they're stressed out, why they're worried. That's why the pictures that you create affect your emotions. Next is the auditory. So the auditory, remember, VAK, visual, auditory, kinesthetic. So the auditory is the sounds that you hear or your internal self-talk. So you can hear those sounds on the outside or on the inside. If you hear a certain song, it puts you into a certain state. So last year I was at the in my mastermind group event in Montreal, and the M1 event, and there's a physical exercise competition. And on this morning, I didn't feel like doing it. I was like kind of tired, and I was like, I'm not going to do it. And pretty soon they started playing the song "Lose Yourself" by Eminem. And I'm very anchored to that. I use that song to get myself amped up. And so as soon as that song started playing, I heard it, and my nervous system said, oh, this song's playing. Oh, we must be ready to feel good. It sent that signal to my endocrine system. My endocrine system releases all of these powerful hormones. And pretty soon I go into this like confident, powerful state. And I look at my partner and I'm like, oh, I'm going to win this. And he was like, oh, I thought you said you were like going to take it easy. And I was like, yeah, but now I'm going to win it. And just that shift from the auditory, from the song that I heard, changed my state, changed my emotions, changed everything about my ability to perform. Remember, your state equals your capabilities. So for those of you listening to sad country songs or songs about your last relationship that you're anchored to, and you're not in a resourceful state and you're feeling depressed, think about why. Those songs that you hear affect your state. And not just the songs. If you get criticized a lot, let's say you're in a relationship or your parents, they criticize you a lot, you hear that, and that affects your emotional state. And pretty soon, most of us have voices in our head going about our normal daily lives that aren't ours. We have our parents' voices, we have our partner's voices, we have the younger version of ourselves' voices that have doubt and worry. And so when you can start to take control over the internal voices in your head, you can take control of your emotions in your life. So a few months ago, I was in a pretty low state one day. I'm like, it's kind of unlike me. I was like, this is weird. What's going on? And I run through this checklist in my head, this list I'm giving you guys right now. And I'll tell you how to get access to this list. I'm running through the list, and the auditory, I heard myself say to myself, like, oh, you can't do that. You're not good enough. Like, this isn't going to work. And I was like, oh, it's that voice. And so I just started shifting that voice. I drown it out. And that's what affirmations do, right? We affirm something positive so many times that it drowns out the negative. And so I referred to when I was running the marathon, I did this the whole time. I was with a group of guys, and I just kept saying, I feel amazing. I feel so good. I feel energized. I was singing songs, the song Break My Stride by Matthew Wilder. And pretty soon I'm feeling amazing, right? I've never run more than 10 miles in my life. Besides one training run where I ran 18 and it was miserable. So I'm running this marathon with these guys, and I just keep telling them, I'm like, man, you look great. Like, you're feeling amazing, aren't you? And it took them a while, but pretty soon they started catching on, and they were doing affirmations with me. And so we all ran 21 miles together, and then we kind of split up. But for those 21 miles, everyone was amped up. Everyone was feeling amazing because I knew these principles. I applied the auditory because it controls our emotions. I said, I feel good. This is so easy. This hill up here, I love running hills. This is so amazing. And by repeating this over and over, that internal voice of doubt and pain couldn't come to the surface. It wasn't there because it didn't have an opportunity to, because I drowned it out. And I did the same for the guys that I was running with. And I taught them that principle. And so we were just doing affirmations, running, having a great time. So in your daily lives, notice the words that you're saying and notice your internal self-talk. And when you can start to manage that, you take control of your emotions and you'll start feeling amazing. I am reading this book right now by Bandler and Grinder, the founders of neuro-linguistic programming. It's called Frogs into Princes. And on one of the pages, they say that 99% of their depression patients, the reason they're depressed is because they're making pictures and hearing sounds below conscious awareness. And consciously, all they feel is the feeling of depression because they don't know that they're making pictures and hearing sounds in the subconscious. And by shifting your awareness to, okay, what pictures am I making? What am I hearing? You can shed light on that. You can bring that into conscious awareness. But your conscious awareness is only limited, right? Your subconscious is so many times exponentially more powerful. So it can create an image and talk to yourself about something and you won't even know it. And so people that have depression, they're feeling depression in their body, right? That's the station that they're tuned into. That's the way their antenna resonates. But it's because they're creating images and hearing sounds below their conscious awareness that they're not even aware of, right? So if you want to get rid of depression, that's your key right there. And people that have depression, what do they say? They say, oh, I went to the doctor, I have a chemical imbalance. Well, guess what? You do, because if you moved your body that way, if I move my body that way, the same as a depressed person, if I breathed the same way, if I created images and I talked to myself in the same way, and I had the same lifestyle choices, I would have a chemical imbalance too. That's how our system works. You get to lead your system to a new vibrational and emotional state. And most people just don't know how to control that. So they go to the doctor who has no idea how to control that. And he says, here, take these medications, which then screw up your own ability to manage your emotions because they don't understand the stimulus that drives our emotions. They don't understand this checklist that I'm giving you guys right now. So the next thing is the people that we spend our time with, right? Just like an antenna, we will tend to resonate with people that we're around. So I don't know if you knew this, but grandfather clocks will tend to sync their second hands. They can be totally different. The more time they spend together, their second hands will get synchronized. This is one of the principles of the universe. Women synchronize times of the month. If they spend enough time together, they sync up those functions. We become who we spend time with. Jim Rohn said, you are the average of the 5 people you spend time with. This is why I'm so picky about spending time with certain people. This is why I travel to events. I had my buddy in town, Zach Pinsons, who you guys should follow him. This dude's an amazing hypnotist, up and coming superstar. And, for a week, we just talked about hypnosis, and the things I learned from him were amazing because that's how his mind works and that's how he resonates. So I tuned my antenna to resonate with him. I like to think he learned a few things from me too, but that's neither here nor there. But because we're in that vibration of learning and growth, I get to learn from somebody who's on that level. And that's why I spend time with people who are doing the things that I want to do. Otherwise, you spend time with people who are downers. Guess what? You can't help but resonate with them. You can't help but tap into the same thought and emotional patterns that they are in. So be very picky who you're spending your time with because they affect the quality of your life. They affect who you become. Your cells will resonate just like the people that you spend time with. All right. And the final one, the final master key. So let's review first. So if we go back through our list, we have, first of all, the first 4 have to do with our body, how we use our body, our physiology, our breath, our facial expressions, our postures, and our movement. So those are the first 4. Next is our food, hydration, sleep, our lifestyle choices. That's one. The visual, the pictures that we make on the outside, the pictures that we see on the inside, and the auditory. So again, the sounds on the exterior, the sounds on the interior. Our self-talk affects our emotions, the people that we spend time with, and finally, the master key to it all is our focus. What you focus on, you feel. How many people have heard that? What you focus on, you feel. Because again, nervous system, you direct your focus consciously, goes through your nervous system runs through its files and said, oh, this is what we're focused on, feel this. It releases hormones into the system, which changes your cellular vibration. It not only changes how you feel, but it also changes what you attract just based on your focus. You can focus on what's wrong with the situation. You can focus on what's right with the situation. You can focus on what you don't have, or you can focus on what you have and what you can be grateful for. You can focus on lack. You can focus on abundance. All of these things are everywhere. They're all around you, but what you focus on affects what you're tuned into. So if you were living, a very modest life, but you were tuned into gratitude, you would feel gratitude in your system for every little thing. You could just find a reason to be grateful. I just got a new microphone here and I'm like, just to focus on like, wow, this sounds so much better. I can feel gratitude for that. Or I can look at someone who's got so much more than me, compare myself, and be like, oh, my microphone sucks compared to them. And what I focus on will affect the emotions in my body. Most people, not you, because now you know, most people have no idea that they get to control what they focus on. That's what being conscious is. That's what our life is about, is consciously creating by shifting our focus to what we want, not resisting what we don't want, not focusing on what we don't want, If there's something wrong, understanding the issue and then focusing on where we're going. That's what I do with all my coaching clients is I shift their focus from what they don't want to what they do want. Shifting the focus is the key to shifting vibrational state. If you guys haven't gotten my 30 Days of Influential Language Hacks course yet for free, spohntrained.com/language. This is a huge key is shifting people's focus. Little language hacks that can build rapport and then shift someone from focusing on what they don't want to what they do want. And language is the way that we make that happen. So that's the list of the 9 things. And what happens is all of those things combine to make meaning. And this is going to be probably on a future episode, but we're always making meaning out of things. And so consciously to understand, like, if someone doesn't text you back right away, our subconscious makes a meaning of it and we can focus on what's wrong. Or we can gain control of that, observe our emotions, and then redirect them, make a new meaning, make a new focus, and take back that emotional control. That's where you have the power. That's where everything in life starts to open up to you, where you start feeling amazing because you've mastered your emotions. You are not the victim of your emotions anymore. And it all comes down to that antenna. You're tuning your antenna into abundance, right? Into what you do want, what you can be grateful for, what you can feel good about. Because when we get those negative emotions, they store in our system and they cause disease. And that's what our episode next week is going to be about, is about how to get rid of the stored and stuck emotions. But right now we're going to change the signals that we're sending into our system. And this is how. You guys have the steps. Right now you have the framework. If you want to go to my website, spohntrained.com, and there's a little button below that I think that says sign up for the membership area. You can have free access where I have a handout on the antenna theory. Print it out, put it on your refrigerator, remind yourself every day, train this in. This is a lifelong pursuit. I've been studying this for years and I still spend time every day reminding myself of these because I don't have perfect control of my emotions yet. I'm still working on it, but I'm so much more emotionally healthy understanding how these work. And I feel so much better all the time. And then I applied all of these to running the marathon. If you guys sign up for my membership area, you can get access to watch that talk as well, and how I changed the way that I breathe. I changed my facial expressions, my posture, the images I created in my mind of the marathon, right? When you think of a marathon, we think about it as this long, arduous process. Well, I just imagined that long process and I put it on a little note card size and I visualized it being that big. And it changed the way my brain related to it. And again, that changes the way the signals that you send your body, changes the way that you can perform. So if you guys are serious about increasing your performance in any area in life, you must master your vibrational state. You must master the meaning that you're making. And what is more important than this? There's nothing in life more important than managing your state, because your state affects what you attract. It affects the type of relationships you have. It affects your finances. It affects your fulfillment. It affects your health. Right? Emotional health is health. There's no difference. Being emotionally healthy, when you're healthy, you take time to digest your food. In a stressed out state, you don't digest your food. Your body says, listen, we don't need to worry about digestion. We have other things going on. And this is why most people have health issues, because they're not in a healthy emotional state. So you can't separate emotional health and health. They're the exact same thing. So there's nothing more important than managing these variables and your emotions. And unfortunately, there's probably nothing that we learn less about in school. Nothing that we learn less about. I know so many people who studied psychology and doctors, and they don't understand. They still don't understand what emotions are and how to use them and how to be healthy. They say, "Oh, you need to be less stressed out." Well, these are the steps to be less stressed out. You guys have the steps now. Okay, so we got it all out there. You guys know how to tune your radio now. So remember, the vibration of your cells affects the emotions that you are tapped into, just like an antenna. Tune your station, practice changing the station. And it's going to take a little bit of practice. It's going to take some momentum, because when you're in that stuck state and when you're in those radio stations that you don't like, it takes power. But just like listening to a station you don't like on the radio, you don't claim it as your identity. You can say, oh, I'm in a depressed state versus I am depressed. You see the difference? One of them is an identity. One of them is a temporary. It's passing. I go through anxiety. I go through depression all the time. That's what it means to be human. But I just observe it and I let it pass. I don't own them. I don't hold those things. I don't beat myself up for them. That's part of being human. And then you pass through those states and you enter more empowering states by using these variables. And when you can do that on a regular basis, your life will change, your performance will change, your relationships will change, everything will change. I feel like I'm going on and on about it. But you guys, I know if you're listening to my podcast, you are committed to mastering these steps. So I have one request. If you enjoyed this talk, please share it with anyone in your life who needs it. Someone who's struggling with depression, anxiety, who wants to increase their performance. These are key factors. Every one of my coaching clients, we go through this list. If you enjoy this, I would also love a review on iTunes. This is how we get the message out. My whole purpose is to share this emotional health revolution with as many people as possible to inform them. There's way too many people living in pain. And so one way we can do that is by sharing. And if you had a 5-star experience, by going into iTunes or your favorite podcasting channel and giving me a review there as well. I would be so grateful for that. And tomorrow, next week, the episode next week, we're going to talk about when we have negative emotions that store in our body, how we get rid of them. And it's going to be a little bit deeper talk on a little bit different subject. So some of us, we can change those variables and we still don't feel like we're the way that we should be. We still don't feel like we're able to access those higher states, or there's that one thing in our life that's holding us back, preventing us from having relationships where we keep attracting the same thing financially or in relationships or health-wise. And it probably has to do with a stuck emotion, because everything is energy and emotions are life. So if you're struggling in an area, it's because of an emotion, and it may be because you have a trapped emotion. So we're going to talk about next week how to release that. So I'd love to see you guys on next week. And thank you for your time. And I love you guys, and I will see you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Spohn Trained Personal Development Podcast with Nicholas Spohn. Make sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. And for more information, visit spohntrained.com. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you soon.